Imagine a world where everything you see, every star in the sky, every wave in the ocean, every breath of life, was spoken into existence by a single, all-powerful Creator. The first chapter of Genesis isn't just a story. It's the story of how everything began. It opens with a simple yet profound statement. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. At first, the earth is formless, empty, and shrouded in darkness. But the Spirit of God hovers over the waters, ready to bring order out of chaos. Over 6 days, God speaks creation into existence. On the first day, He creates light, separating day from night. On the second day, He forms the sky, dividing the waters above from the waters below. On the third day, dry land emerges, and the earth bursts forth with vegetation, plants, trees, and fruit. On the fourth day, God fills the heavens with the sun, moon, and stars, marking seasons, days, and years. On the fifth day, the waters and skies come alive with sea creatures and birds. And on the sixth day, God creates land animals and, finally, humanity, man and woman, in His own image. He blesses them, giving them dominion over the earth and commanding them to be fruitful and multiply. By the seventh day, God's work is complete. He rests, not because He is tired, but to establish the Sabbath as a holy day of rest. This act sets a pattern for humanity, reminding us of the importance of balance and worship. Genesis 2 zooms in on the creation of Adam and Eve. God forms Adam from the dust of the ground and breathes life into him, making him a living being. He places Adam in the Garden of Eden, a paradise filled with beauty and abundance. But God sees that it's not good for man to be alone, so He creates Eve from Adam's rib. Adam recognizes her as part of himself, declaring, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." This moment establishes the sacred bond of marriage and the unity between man and woman. In the garden, God gives them one command. They may eat from any tree except the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This command is a test of their obedience and trust in God. But then, the serpent, crafty and deceptive, enters the scene. He approaches Eve and questions God's command. "Did God really say you must not eat from any tree?" Eve responds, clarifying that they may eat from all trees except one, or they will die. But the serpent lies. "You will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." Tempted by the desire for wisdom, Eve eats the fruit and gives some to Adam. Immediately, their eyes are opened, but instead of gaining wisdom, they feel shame and hide from God. When God confronts them, Adam blames Eve, and Eve blames the serpent. God pronounces judgment. The serpent is cursed to crawl on its belly, and God declares enmity between the serpent and the woman's offspring, a prophecy of Christ's victory over sin. Eve will experience pain in childbirth and tension in her relationship with Adam. Adam will toil on cursed ground until he returns to dust. Yet, even in judgment, God shows mercy. He clothes Adam and Eve and promises future redemption. Adam and Eve's sons, Cain and Abel, bring offerings to God. Abel offers the best of his flock, and God accepts it. Cain brings crops, but his offering is rejected. Jealous and angry, Cain ignores God's warning. Sin is crouching at your door, but you must rule over it. Instead, Cain lures Abel into a field and kills him. When God confronts him, Cain responds defiantly, "Am I my brother's keeper?" God curses Cain, making him a wanderer, but also places a mark on him for protection. This story reminds us of the destructive power of sin and the importance of accountability and repentance. Genesis 5 traces the lineage from Adam to Noah, showing God's faithfulness despite humanity's sin. Key figures include Enoch, who walked with God and was taken to heaven without dying, symbolizing a life of faithfulness. Methuselah, the longest living man, whose life spans 969 years and ends just before the flood. And Noah, whose birth brings hope of comfort and renewal. This genealogy highlights God's patience and his plan to restore creation through a righteous remnant. Genesis 1 through 5 sets the stage for the entire biblical narrative. It reveals God's power, humanity's purpose, the devastating consequences of sin, and the first glimmers of hope for redemption. From the creation of the world to the fall and the promise of a Savior. These chapters remind us of God's love, justice, and mercy. They invite us to trust in His plan and live in obedience to His word. If you are joining us for the first time, do like and subscribe as we unravel the secret stories from the Bible. See you on the next one. In the land of Canaan, a young man named Joseph lived with his father, Jacob, and his 11 brothers. Joseph was Jacob's favorite son, and as a sign of his love, Jacob gave him a beautiful coat of many colors. But this favoritism stirred jealousy among his brothers. Their envy deepened when Joseph shared his dreams, visions in which his brothers bowed before him. One day, as Joseph approached his brothers in the fields, they conspired against him. Seizing him, they stripped him of his coat and cast him into a dry pit. Some wanted to kill him, but Reuben, the eldest, convinced them to spare his life. Instead, they sold him to a caravan of Ishmaelite traders who took him to Egypt. To deceive their father, they dipped Joseph's coat in goat's blood, making it appear as if he had been slain by a wild animal. Jacob mourned bitterly, believing his beloved son was dead. In Egypt, Joseph was sold to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. Though a slave, Joseph remained faithful to God, and his integrity earned him Potiphar's trust. Soon, he was placed in charge of Potiphar's entire household. However, Potiphar's wife, infatuated with Joseph, sought to seduce him. When he resisted, she falsely accused him of wrongdoing, and he was cast into prison. Even in prison, God was with Joseph. His wisdom and ability to interpret dreams became known, and he gained favor with the prison warden. One day, 2 of Pharaoh's servants, the cupbearer and the baker, were imprisoned. Both had troubling dreams, and Joseph interpreted them. He foretold that the cupbearer would be restored to his position, while the baker would be executed. Joseph pleaded with the cupbearer to remember him, but once restored, he forgot. 2 years passed, and Pharaoh had a dream that no one could interpret. Only then did the cupbearer recall Joseph. Brought before Pharaoh, Joseph interpreted the dream. 7 years of plenty would be followed by 7 years of famine. Impressed, Pharaoh appointed Joseph as governor over Egypt, second only to himself. Joseph oversaw the storage of grain during the years of abundance, preparing for the coming famine. When famine struck, it spread beyond Egypt, reaching Canaan. Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain, unaware that Joseph governed the land. When the brothers arrived, they bowed before Joseph, unknowingly fulfilling his childhood dream. Recognizing them, Joseph concealed his identity and tested their hearts. He accused them of being spies and demanded they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, as proof of their honesty. The brothers returned to Canaan and convinced Jacob, with great reluctance, to let Benjamin go. When they arrived back in Egypt, Joseph arranged a feast for them, but secretly placed his silver cup in Benjamin's sack. As they departed, soldiers stopped them, and Benjamin was accused of theft. In distress, Judah offered himself as a substitute, proving that the brothers had changed. Overcome with emotion, Joseph revealed his identity. "I am Joseph, your brother, whom you sold into slavery," he said. "Do not be afraid. What you meant for evil, God used for good, to save many lives." He embraced his brothers, and they wept together. Joseph sent for his father, and Jacob rejoiced to learn his son was alive. The entire family moved to Egypt, settling in the land of Goshen. There, they prospered under Joseph's protection. Joseph's story became a testament to faith, forgiveness, and divine providence. Though he endured betrayal and hardship, he remained steadfast, and God's plan prevailed. His journey from slave to ruler demonstrated that even in the darkest times, God is working for a greater purpose. And so, through Joseph's life, the power of redemption and reconciliation was revealed to generations to come. In the ancient land of Egypt, under the shadow of mighty pyramids and the rule of a powerful pharaoh, a people called the Israelites lived in bondage. Once welcomed as honored guests in the time of Joseph, the Israelites had grown numerous, and their strength struck fear into the hearts of Egyptian rulers. Over generations, their freedom was stripped away, and they were subjected to harsh labor, building cities and monuments for a kingdom that offered them no compassion. But in the midst of this oppression, a child was born who would change everything. His name was Moses. Hidden in a basket and set afloat on the Nile to escape Pharaoh's decree to kill Hebrew infants, Moses was found and raised by Pharaoh's own daughter. Though he lived in privilege, the plight of his people burned in his heart. One day, witnessing an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave, Moses acted in anger, killing the Egyptian and fleeing into the wilderness. There, in the quiet solitude of the desert, Moses encountered something extraordinary, a bush that burned without being consumed. From the fire came the voice of God, calling Moses to return to Egypt and free his people. Trembling and uncertain, Moses accepted the divine commission. Armed only with a shepherd's staff and God's promises, he stood before Pharaoh and demanded, "Let my people go." Pharaoh's heart was hardened. He mocked Moses and tightened his grip on the Israelites. Then came the plagues. Waters turned to blood, swarms of frogs and locusts, hailstorms, darkness and disease, 10 signs of divine judgment that struck terror into Egypt. With each plague, Pharaoh's resolve wavered, yet he refused to release the slaves. Finally, God sent the final blow, the death of every firstborn in Egypt. The Israelites were instructed to mark their doors with lamb's blood, so that the angel of death would pass over them. That night, grief swept through Egypt, and Pharaoh relented. Moses led the Israelites out, their feet moving swiftly under the moonlight, leaving centuries of bondage behind. But their journey was not yet complete. Pharaoh, enraged at their escape, pursued them with chariots and soldiers. Trapped between the Red Sea and Pharaoh's army, the people cried out in fear. Then, in a moment, etched in eternity, Moses stretched out his staff, and the waters parted. The Israelites crossed on dry ground, and when Pharaoh's forces followed, the sea closed in, swallowing them. The Israelites were free, but the wilderness tested their faith. They wandered for 40 years, receiving manna from heaven and water from rocks. At Mount Sinai, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, a divine covenant to guide them as his chosen people. Through hardship and hope, the Exodus became a story not just of liberation, but of identity, faith, and God's unrelenting power and mercy. It echoes through history as a reminder that no chain is too strong, no oppressor too mighty, and no path too blocked when God leads the way. In the days of King Saul, when the nation of Israel was surrounded by enemies and their courage was tested daily, A mighty warrior from the Philistine army stepped forward. His name was Goliath of Gath, a giant of a man, over 9 feet tall, clad in bronze armor that gleamed like fire, with a spear like a weaver's beam. Day after day, he challenged the armies of Israel, his voice booming through the valley, defying God and mocking his people. "Choose a man to fight me," he roared. "If he wins, we will be your servants. But if I prevail, you shall serve us." Terror gripped the Israelites. No one dared to face the giant. That is, until a young shepherd named David arrived at the battlefield. He had not come to fight, but to bring food to his older brothers who served in Saul's army. When David heard Goliath's taunts, his heart burned with righteous anger. Who is this uncircumcised Philistine that he should defy the armies of the living God? He asked. Though young and inexperienced in war, David's courage astonished those around him. Word reached King Saul, and David was brought before him. "Let no one lose heart on account of this Philistine. Your servant will go and fight him," David declared. Saul looked at him with concern. "You are only a boy, and he has been a warrior from his youth." But David recounted how he had defended his flock against lions and bears, how God had delivered him each time. "The Lord who rescued me from the paw of the lion and the bear will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." Moved by David's faith, Saul agreed. He offered his own armor, but David declined. He chose instead his shepherd's staff, 5 smooth stones from a brook, and his trusty sling. With the Philistines watching from one hill and the Israelites from another, David stepped into the valley. Goliath laughed when he saw him. "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks? Come here, and I will feed your flesh to the birds." But David stood firm. "You come against me with sword, spear, and javelin. But I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Today, the Lord will deliver you into my hands." As Goliath advanced, David ran to meet him. He reached into his pouch, pulled out a stone, placed it in his sling, and hurled it with all his might. The stone struck Goliath on the forehead, and the giant fell face down to the ground. The enemy army gasped in disbelief. David ran forward, took Goliath's own sword, and used it to finish him. The Philistines turned and fled, and Israel's army surged forward, emboldened by the miraculous victory. From that day on, David became a hero of Israel. His faith, not his strength, brought him victory. And his story endures as a powerful reminder that with God, no enemy is too great and no obstacle too mighty. For those who trust in the Lord, giants will fall. In the land of Oz, amidst rugged, rolling hills and vast plains, there lived a man named Job, a figure of great renown, both for his righteousness and his immense prosperity. His wealth was unparalleled. His fields stretched as far as the eye could see, flourishing under the golden sun, and his herds of sheep, oxen, and camels roamed freely across the expansive desert. Job's livestock numbered in the thousands, and his fields yielded harvests so bountiful that his granaries overflowed, a testament to his success and divine favor. Yet, it was not merely his wealth that distinguished him. Job was a man of integrity, his heart brimming with compassion and generosity. He was known throughout the land for his kindness toward the less fortunate. The doors of his home were always open, welcoming the weary traveler, the beggar in need of food, and the broken in spirit seeking comfort. His servants were treated with respect, and his household was a place of harmony and justice. Despite his vast riches, Job remained humble and devout. never failing to offer sacrifices to God, always giving thanks for the blessings he received. His faith was unwavering, a beacon of light in a world that often languished in shadows, inspiring all who knew him to walk in the path of righteousness. Job's influence spread far beyond his homeland. Merchants from distant lands eagerly sought to trade with him, bringing exotic goods and rare treasures in exchange for the wealth that seemed to flow unceasingly from his hands. His prosperity seemed unshakable, a divine reward for his steadfast faith and noble character. But the tides of fate were about to turn, and Job would soon face trials beyond human comprehension, tests that would shake the very foundations of his existence. In the celestial realm, a divine council convened, and among its members stood Satan, the adversary, the accuser of mankind. God, in his omniscience, pointed to Job, declaring him a man of unparalleled righteousness, a servant devoted beyond measure. But Satan, ever the cynic, scoffed at this assertion. "Does Job fear God for nothing?" he challenged. "Have you not placed a hedge of protection around him, blessing everything he touches? Remove these blessings, take away his wealth and comfort, and surely he will curse you to your face." God, confident in Job's faith, allowed Satan to test him, but with one condition: he could not harm Job physically. And so, the adversary set his plan into motion, determined to prove that Job's devotion was nothing more than a byproduct of his prosperity. Calamity struck with relentless force. Raiders descended upon Job's lands, stealing his livestock and slaughtering his servants. Fire fell from the heavens, consuming his sheep and shepherds alike. A great wind arose and struck the house where his beloved children were feasting, causing it to collapse, burying them beneath the rubble. In the span of mere moments, Job's world crumbled around him, his wealth vanished, and his children, the light of his life, were gone. News of these tragedies reached Job in swift succession, each blow more devastating than the last. His heart ached with an unimaginable grief. Yet he did not curse God. Instead, he tore his robes, shaved his head in mourning, and fell to the ground in worship. "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked shall I return," he declared. "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." But Job's suffering did not end there. Satan, still unconvinced of Job's steadfastness, sought permission to afflict his body, and God permitted it, with the condition that his life be spared. Painful boils erupted across Job's skin, covering him from head to toe. He writhed in agony, scraping his sores with a shard of pottery as he sat in the ashes of what was once his prosperous life. Even Job's wife, stricken with grief and despair, urged him to curse God and abandon his faith. Yet Job rebuked her, saying, "Shall we accept good from God and not trouble?" Word of Job's affliction spread, and soon 3 of his closest friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, came to visit him. When they saw him, they were overcome with sorrow, barely recognizing the man who had once stood tall in wealth and joy. For 7 days and nights they sat in silence, mourning with him, sharing in his grief. Finally, Job broke his silence, his voice laden with sorrow and despair. He cursed the day of his birth, questioning why he had been brought into the world only to endure such suffering. His cries echoed through the desolate land, his words painting a picture of his deep anguish. His friends, in their attempt to provide answers, instead offered accusations. Eliphaz suggested that Job's misfortunes were a result of hidden sins. Bildad argued that God punishes the wicked and rewards the righteous, implying that Job's suffering must be deserved. Zophar, the harshest of the 3, outright condemned Job, accusing him of arrogance and wrongdoing. But Job refused to accept their assertions, maintaining his innocence, insisting that he had committed no transgression worthy of such affliction. As the debates continued, another voice entered the discourse. A young man named Elihu, filled with passion, rebuked both Job and his friends. He chastised the three for failing to provide wisdom and warned Job against questioning God's justice. "Listen to me," Elihu implored, "and open your hearts to the mysteries of God's ways. His wisdom is beyond our understanding." Then, out of the storm, God himself spoke. A whirlwind descended, and from its midst, the voice of the Almighty thundered, questioning Job with profound inquiries about the nature of creation. "Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth?" God demanded. "Can you command the morning or bring forth the constellations in their season?" Humbled and overwhelmed, Job fell to his knees. "I have spoken of things too wonderful for me to know," he confessed. "I repent in dust and ashes." In his mercy, God restored Job, blessing him with twice as much as he had before. His wealth multiplied, his household flourished, and he was granted long life, surrounded by children and grandchildren. Job's trials became a testament to faith, patience, and divine justice, an enduring story of perseverance through suffering and ultimate restoration. If you are joining us for the first time, do like and subscribe as we unravel the secret stories from the Bible. See you on the next one.